Hello and welcome to Series 3, Episode 1 of the Tuesday Talkshow with me, your host, or am I? This morning, the tables have turned. We have the legendary, and I will say that legendary, Pete Allen, podcast expert, to do the interviewing this morning because to celebrate my businesses, that's Essential Print Services' 10th anniversary, get both hands in the sky, 10 years in business. I thought people might want to know a little bit more about the host. So that's why I've asked our friend Pete to come and interview me to get to know a little bit more about Yvonne Gorman, the print evangelist behind Essential Print Services. So I'm going to hand over to the man himself. Over to you, Pete Allen.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you. Do you know what? It's always scary when somebody calls you a legend because the best legends are dead. It's the rubbish ones who are still alive. But yeah, you're right. The tables have been turned. You are in the hot seat. And, 10 years old. Not you, obviously, but Essential Print Services. Happy birthday, first off.
Thank you.
For anybody who doesn't know and anyone who's hooked into this for the first time, just tell us a little bit more about Essential Print Services and Yvonne Gorman. What do you do? Who are you? Where are you?
Okay. So where do I begin? I own Essential Print Services based on Pride Park in Derby. I'm a graphic designer by trade, so I've been doing that for over 20 years. I'm also one of the Small Business Saturday UK heroes, so helping fly the flag for small businesses, not just in Derby and Derbyshire, but all throughout the UK. I'm a volunteer for the Federation of Small Businesses, and with that help, I host a monthly free networking event. And I'm also one of the board of directors for Marketing Derby, one of the inward investment agencies for the city. So I am very much Derby by the sounds of it.
Absolutely. Do you know, it's one of those things, isn't it, where you think of business and you think of Derby, and Yvonne Gorman always turns up on your timeline, and that's that's great. No, it's a positive, honestly. Why is that? Why are you so passionate about Derby and small businesses within? Where did that come from?
That's a really good question. Well, to be honest, Pete, people that know me well will know that I'm actually quite shy, and to put myself out there and do things like this morning really is like pushing my boundaries. But I do firmly believe that if you do push your own boundaries and do things that feel uncomfortable, opportunities do come your way. So it's just a matter of time. We're not sure what the opportunities are just yet, but they definitely will come your way. I am passionate about Derby. I am a Derby girl, born and bred, passionate about the city. I think it's got a huge amount of potential still. I just want to see it be the city that it deserves to be. And I'm passionate about small businesses because it's hard. It's really tough being a micro and small business owner. Things are really tough at the moment with what's happening in the world. But without the pandemic, it's always been tough for small businesses to, market themselves, run a business, be successful, to know what success even is for themselves. So yeah, I'm passionate about helping them.
Yeah, I think massively. I think you're absolutely, everything that you've said there is absolutely right, and I do think that there's massive power in collaboration within small business, and that's so important. Right, let's turn back the clock 10 years. Okay, you threw in the 9 to 5 at some point. You started Essential Print Services. You went, yes, I'm going it alone. What made you do that? Why did that happen?
Because other people told me to, Pete, to be honest. I never intended to run my own business. I wasn't those people that you see on Dragon's Den that always aspired to run their own companies or work for themselves. It just wasn't on the cards for me, and I didn't want the responsibility of it. I didn't want the responsibility of having staff. But from having worked for other people's businesses and networked on their behalf, going to groups, going to the likes of Derby Hub, going to B&I back in the day, I began to see, people began to tell me that they saw in me an entrepreneurial spirit, and I never really saw that in myself. I just thought, well, for instance, I was getting told many times I was working for other people, is this your company? I was like, no, don't be daft. I won't be able to run a business myself. But then when you get told that time and time again, you just think, maybe there's something in this. Maybe I could do it. So yes, on the 1st of April 2011, I decided to start Essential Print Services, and I was working for a promotional business beforehand. I was a director there. We parted company, and very quickly I had to form a business, and luckily I'd already had that networking foundation. So my name, for me personally, was already out there. I just then had to start again with my own brand, which was, scary as hell. Scary as hell.
Yeah, but it's worked out, and we're talking about it 10 years later. You did mention, obviously, you weren't brought up into it. I wasn't either. I'm now a business owner, and that happened completely by accident, just in the same way as you. I wasn't born into it. My parents just did their jobs, and the thought of working for yourself for them was really scary. So one of the things I had was, oh, shouldn't you be working for somebody else? Oh, are you sure you can do this? Did you experience any of that? And if you did, how did you overcome it?
That only came from sort of some friends and some family members. Just because they were concerned about the risks or the perceived risks of running your own business entails. However, at the time, I had a very small mortgage, and it was just myself and my now husband living together. We don't have any dependents. And, our personal overheads were fairly low. So in terms of financial risks, there was a risk there, but it wasn't as high as if I'd had, a whole house full of children, dogs, debt. It wasn't like that. So we started on a really strong foundation and built it from there. But when people did say, are you sure about this? But what if this happens? And what if that happens? I just thought, well, what if I didn't do it?
Yeah.
Then we just don't know. So, if we're going to do it now is the time to do it before life gets a bit too serious, even more adulty.
Absolutely. I think you're right. And I think when people, family members and friends say stuff like that, it may not be helpful to your mindset, but I think it always comes from a good place. And
Absolutely,
I don't think,
yeah.
And that's great. So in the last 10 years, obviously the last year has certainly not been your average. There's no doubt about it. What have you done in the last year? I mean, we're just over a year since the first lockdown. Lockdown happened. I guess your business changed massively. So how did your business change? And also, what have you done since that time to move with the times?
Gosh, last April, May time, it just felt like a rug had been pulled under my feet. It was so scary to see, because before COVID happened, we'd had consecutively fantastic months, October, November, December, month on month, breaking records. And I was like, this is brilliant. No, this is going the way I want it to. And then COVID happened, and sales just went, absolutely went. Yes, we had to make redundancies and to split up a team, not only that worked well, could keep the cogs turning whilst I was out of the office or even on holiday. I mean, that is what most business owners strive for, to be able to have a team that they know and trust, that they can keep things going whilst they're away. And then to split that up didn't make sense to me. Why would I want to build this amazing team and then have to, split them up? So that was absolutely devastating. But, from the last year, I have evaluated and reorganized everything in my life, from streamlining processes right through to organizing my underwear drawer. My wardrobe has got my 32 blazers in color coordinated order, and it's just beautiful to look at.
Wow.
And
wow.
I love being organized, and I think looking back now and seeing how streamlined things are, how easier things are to do in the business, I just feel like I'd spent that time reorganizing and reevaluating, almost like preparing for battle, if that makes sense. Once this is over, if I get all my ducks in a row, if I get everything sorted, I will come out of this stronger and better. than ever. It really did feel like I was going into battle, and I was preparing myself for something even bigger and better. That goes down to my overheads, looking at every piece of software that we're paying for on a monthly basis, questioning every single overhead to the point where you think, I can't trim off anymore. Once we get out of this is the business all nicely packaged up, and I can really drive it forward and rebuild it. So that's what I've done. And on a personal level, I do feel that during the pandemic, it's just made me mellow out. Things that would have stressed me out before don't seem to stress me out as much, which is a massive positive. Because as you know, Pete, once you get feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed out, you don't think straight, you're not making the right decisions, you don't see the opportunities for what they are. So yeah, it's going to be, I'm really excited about what the next few months hold. Once we get out of this and we're properly out of this, then I do feel that it's going to be a really exciting time. It's going to be probably the most intense working periods of most people's lives as well as they rebuild. So be prepared for that.
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think the next few months will hold? I mean, if we're rubbish at predicting stuff nowadays, aren't we? Nobody predicted any of this. If you were a betting person, and I presume you're not, if you were, what would your money be on? What do you think the shape of things in 6 months will be like?
It's really going to be a testing time for small businesses. I think the legacy of the pandemic will be a more compassionate one. I think people will definitely feel like they've all been in this together in some way, shape or form, more willingness to help. In Derby, it's a fantastic community for business. We're all very collaborative, very supportive, but after this, it's going to be even more so. So, if your business has survived this, then it's got to come back stronger. If you can survive this, you can survive anything in business. And to make sure you reach out to people in the local community so you can collaborate and help each other. That's how I think we're going to get around this. Yeah.
Excellent. And what do you think overall, not necessarily just the last year, but overall as a whole, what do you think's the hardest bit about owning and running a business?
Gosh, the hardest thing I think for me is it's relentless. It's never complete.
Yeah.
You can't just get to the end of the year and go, right, that's it, done here, because 1st of January, it starts again. And coming to my end of financial year, which is the 30th of April, I've got this month to, really get everything packaged up, ready for the accounts, tick over to the 1st of May. And I'm like, so I've got to do this all over again now, all over again. And the book doesn't stop. The book always stops with me. If a staff member does something wrong, I would blame myself because I haven't trained them properly. I haven't set the clear expectations of them. If a supplier does something wrong, it's my fault. I haven't set more detailed purchase order. I haven't communicated with them properly. And that is hard. So the relentlessness of business, having the relentlessness in terms of you have to market yourself, not just when times aren't great, but when times are good and you're really, really busy and you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to leave that bit of marketing today because I'm really busy. You've got to keep going. And that's one thing I have maintained throughout the pandemic. Even the times when I felt really low about the business, it felt like, what's the point? And you feel disenfranchised about your own company. You still got to go out there and bang the drum for it because no one else is going to do it for you. But as a small business owner, I don't have my own marketing department. I am it. So you've got to keep going. It's relentless, and the pressure sometimes you feel on your shoulders. It can be quite immense. Quite immense.
You mentioned earlier that you had team, and you had to let people go because things got very difficult. Obviously, I guess you were in a position where you could hand stuff over to your team, and that took some of the pressure off you. Now, does it feel now like the pressure's back on you, all over again?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But the past year has given me the opportunity to go back to the front line of business, to be the person picking up the phone, doing the invoices, doing everything again. Going back, literally back in time 10 years. That first year of business, doing everything, organising deliveries, printing the delivery labels off, doing everything myself. And there's been times when I've bloody loved it, because it made me realise what I enjoyed about the business. It's talking to the customers. It's seeing a job through from start to finish. It's having that email come through to say, received the letterheads today. They look fantastic. Thank you so much. Whereas I would hear about that from a staff member, but I wouldn't see that firsthand. And to know that that was me doing that, I was like, oh, actually, this is, and also having a chance to do design again, doing the graphic design again has been like, why did I not do more of it before? Because I have a staff member there who needs feeding with tasks, because that seat costs you money. Whereas now I've done all the artwork, and it's like, oh yes, I am a designer. So it's been an eye-opener, and it's made, and before COVID, admittedly, probably was losing my mojo a little bit, because the team was working so well, feeling a little bit redundant myself.
Sure.
And, so going back to doing the tasks, not something I want to continue doing for longer than I need to, but it's may help me refine my mojo, and that is just amazing.
Yeah, and I guess in a sense reminded you of the reason why you are who you are and why you do what you do. And I think with you, there's this sense of you are passionate about what you do, and you're passionate about print, and this is a massive thing, and you often don't see that with some business owners. They're kind of in a sector because they've gone, oh, I can make some cash from this. Everyone's doing this, so I'm going to do that. So, and that's not the sense of what I get from you. You are the Derby's print evangelist. You've said it. Everybody else has. But if there were one thing about the print industry, not essential print services, but if there were one thing about the industry as a whole that you could change, what would that be? And can we change it together?
Well, possibly, Preet, because the one thing I'd change about the industry is people saying that print is dead. Print is not dead. If it was dead, I wouldn't be here 10 years on. It has changed. Like most industries, print has changed. It's evolved. Print for me is not just a business card or a roller banner. It's printed cushions, it's printed beanbags for a workplace. It's doing more weird and wonderful thing with print. Print is not dead. 10 years ago, someone may have ordered, 10,000 letterheads, whereas they may be ordering 5 now, but they still need it. The need is still there. And that's one reason why I started the business. It's because I saw firsthand, working for the people, working for suppliers, that there'll be some hard salespeople out there persuading people to buy more than they need. And that's why the slogan for us is smarter, better, fresher print. To buy it smarter. Don't order 1,000 folders for me to visit your office 6 months later to see half of them still in a cupboard doing nothing. Just order what you need. It's not good for your budget. It's not good for the environment, and it's not good for our printing reputation. So if people do come to me and I think that what they're ordering either isn't quite right, or it's too many, or not enough, my job is to question it. Did you know that if we did this tweak, you'd get more for your money? Or if you did this tweak, you could have the chance to update things in 6 months' time, especially if it's your first print run. And it's helping people who are doing their first print runs of something, or maybe they've started out in business. People are experts. Like, you're an expert at podcasting. I'm an expert in design and printing. We're all here to be experts in something. So you can't be expert at everything. So if a hairdresser phones me and is feeling embarrassed because she's asking a silly question about printing, it's not silly, because I don't know things about hairdressing. So it's definitely helping, and holding people's hand through the printing process is what I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, and that's what surely any client will be thankful of. And you mentioned hairdressing there, and you don't know anything about hairdressing. And I'll be honest, I didn't used to know anything about hairdressing, but this last year has made me have to cut my own hair, and I think I've done a pretty good job. I'll be honest, I'm never going back to the barber ever again. So, you know, we've talked about a little bit about some of the challenges that you've experienced over the last 10 years, and specifically over the last year. What are the big advantages of doing what you do? What are the big advantages of being a business owner rather than, you know, working for somebody else and filling their pockets?
I would say, I mean, a lot of people that I've interviewed on the Tuesday Talkshow would say freedom. And I disagree with that. I feel sometimes a slave to the screen because of what I do. To do my job, I have to be in front of a screen, and that can be quite challenging at times. It's a great sense of achievement. To think that, you know, I'm one of the first in my family to run their own business, and by what the sounds of it, I'm doing it successfully. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was for the money. Because it all depends on what you deem as successful. If you say that successful business owners own a really fancy car, well, then I'm not successful because I've got a really old Golf on the driveway, so that ticked me off the list. Yeah. I think my advice for small business owners, if you're, you know, going into this for the first time, or you're building a business, would be to really make those expectations clear, and when you hit those little markers of success, to really celebrate them and to recognize them, because there's no point doing this if you're just sort of wandering about aimlessly. You can wing it for a bit, but after a while, I think that's what happened with me and my mojo. I wasn't clear on what I wanted out of this business. It just sort of happened to me. I was told to start my own business almost, and I did it. And it's like, okay, then, done it now. Now what? Oh, I don't actually know what I want. And so I'm just sort of like, yeah, I'm doing what I've always done and getting nowhere different, because that's just weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I think quite often there's an expectation with some business groups, from what I've experienced. And I'm really new to this. I've been doing this for a couple of years as myself, and making podcasts and doing my own business for a couple of years. So I have very little experience. But from what I've experienced within some networking groups, some business networking groups, there's very much an expectation that you want to make as much money as possible and then leave the company and leave other people to do it. So I've been asked the question, why don't you outsource this? Why don't you outsource that? Why don't you outsource the other? And you go, because I wouldn't get to do it then, because I really enjoy it, because then all I'll be doing is getting people to do stuff. And I completely get that. So I completely hear where you're coming from. You've talked about your network, and you wouldn't have done this, you wouldn't have started it if it wasn't for other people saying, you know, 10, 11 years ago, whenever it was, Yvonne, you should run your own business. So okay, then. Okay, I'll do that then. That sounds like fun. And you know, that's come out throughout the whole of this, and you see it in your every action, and the fact that you play such an active role within different business groups within Derby. So out of that, you must have networked with some really inspirational people. If you could get it down to one, what would be the best piece of advice that you have been given by somebody in your network? Oh
gosh, where do I start with that? That is
you can do top three if you want.
there's loads. The best one was from a gentleman called Graham, who I really do admire. And he said years and years ago, if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. I was like, oh, okay. And that's exactly where this talk show came from. It was on the back of the Derby Small Businesses Unite Facebook group. And it's from reading the book from Tim Ferriss, Tribe of Mentors, and merging them together and thinking, actually, we can create something here that other people can listen in on or watch live, and just to get some bits of inspiration, bits of advice, to feel that they're not alone. And throughout the pandemic, that's been really important. The people that have phoned me, majority of them just feel like they're a bit lonely, even if they had an office full of people, if they had a big team around them. If you're the only director, it can feel really, really lonely. So to have that support network is really, really important. And for instance, going back to Graham's advice, if the opportunity doesn't knock, build a door, I was looking around for networking groups and nothing really quite ticked the box. So I created one, you know. Or if you think you should be on at the board of something, ask. If you think you should be a trustee of a charity, go and ask them. Go and put yourself forward for things. Because if you don't, then you never know. If you sit here waiting for someone to knock on the door, it may never happen. So get out there and create those opportunities.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's a great bit of advice. I'm going to write that down. It really is, and paying it forward. You now have a lot of experience. You've been through really good times. You've been through really, really trying times as well. This isn't something you were born into. So you've learned a lot along the way to be here 10 years later, I think it's fair to say. So if you were to pay it forward, obviously Graham gave you that great bit of advice. If you were to pay it forward, and there was somebody watching this right now who's thinking of starting a business, what's the best bit of advice you could give to them?
I would say, even before you start a business or you're thinking about starting a business, I would get the right people around you, get your business buddies in place, attend networking events before you've even created a company at company's house. Test, and that's a great way of testing the water. And you'll find that people just love to help, love to give their opinion. So if you have a product that you've not, got out there yet, it's a great place to test the market and make sure that what you're doing is viable. And people will want to support you, especially if you're starting out. You'll get business from it for sure. And you need to know who your cheerleaders are. So, if you've got some legal problem, who are you going to turn to? Identify all the different areas around you. Who's going to sort out your HR? Who's going to sort out your IT? Who's going to sort out your creative section of the business? And just write them down and put names next to them. And where there are gaps, they're the people that you need to find right at the start of your business. Get those relationships in place, because when you're going to need them, you can pick up the phone and get an answer straight away. And that has been, absolutely invaluable to my business and its growth, is having the right people there. And obviously it's a two-way street. So making sure that you're in someone else's, business buddy set, you're making sure that you're offering your help and advice and your expertise, because you just never know when you're going to need to pick up the phone and call someone.
Yeah. Great advice. Good advice. So you've given tips. You've told us about tips that you've had. You weren't born into this. We've said this several times. And you mentioned the Tim Ferriss book about mentors. Have you ever had a mentor or a business coach or anything like that, or is it purely books, or do you hire people to help you with your mindset, with the way that things, with your business?
I love to learn. It's always been a thing of mine. So I just want all the information right here, right now. And I've got a bookshelf full of books in the office. But again, it's going back to those networking people and getting the right people around you. You're going to learn so much from those people if you just pick their brains. And going back to the advice as well, don't be afraid to pick up the phone to someone that you admire and you think, God, they're doing a really good job. And just pick up the phone and organise a time when you can pick their brains or visit their office or shadow them for a couple of hours and ask them questions, everything down to what software you're using. How do you do that? How did you get around that? 'Cause people genuinely want to help you. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask for advice. Going back to the books then, Pete, I'm always got a business book on the go, always. And in terms of the question of the coach, now I haven't had any formal mentoring or coaching up until this year, when I am taking part in the D2N2 peer-to-peer growth program. And that has been really good. And I can see that we've got one of the coaches on that program listening to us now. So good morning.
Good stuff about it.
Can't say much about it. But yes, that's been really, really fascinating. But the other book that really was a bit of a game changer was, I've got it here with me, was Would It Make the Boat Go Faster?
Okay.
And it says Olympic winning strategies for everyday success. And it's a great book. It's about the Cox's 4 Olympic success, how they how they changed little things that made a huge difference. And that really resonates with me with the Small Business Saturday activities that I do. How, like you said, collaborations, lots of small businesses can make a big difference. Making lots of little changes in your business can make a big difference. So yeah, that was a really, really fascinating book, and I'll put it in the show notes afterwards.
Excellent. Let's do that. Right, one final thing, because I know time's getting on. You did mention to me at the start that time goes quickly, and it really does. It's been a cracking chat, Yvonne, and you know, you've given advice to people who may just be starting. One more thing, and this is something I think I suffer from as well, so maybe it's a little bit of a selfish question, but you know, you talk about putting yourself out there big time. You have to go beyond your comfort zone to do that. When you experience, or when people experience that awful thing, imposter syndrome, why am I doing this? What's happening? Big bit of advice, just one bit of advice, please, just to get over that and get out there. So how do you overcome that imposter syndrome that I think a lot of business owners do feel at some point? Yeah,
it's a tough one. And again, speaking to loads of people during the pandemic, there are people that have felt like quitting, giving up the businesses, me included several times, you know, over the years. Just felt, what am I doing this for? What's the bloody point? But I've learned to recognize, I think it's important for people to recognize when they're feeling overwhelmed. So simply feeling overwhelmed. And there's another saying out there to, you know, when you feel like quitting, just to rest and take a break. And that's so important. That could be just going for a quick walk around the block. It could be just going to the kitchen to make a cup of tea, you know, putting some music on, have a lunchtime little mini disco, just to do something really different to what you were doing in that when you felt that way, and then come back to it. I mean, I feel sometimes, especially when I'm doing everything by myself at the minute, feeling quite overwhelmed. And again, very quickly recognize now that I do love what I do. But sometimes there are things and tasks that we all do that we feel a little bit boring, or it's a huge, huge task. And you just don't know where to begin. Try and implement any little bit of fun, whether that's putting some music on. For me, I like to learn, so I put podcasts on that I'm going to learn stuff from in the background whilst I'm working. Just anything to inject a bit of fun to make what it is you're feeling feel a bit different, and to know that you're not alone with the way you're feeling. And if you've got those business buddies around you, they're the ones you can call upon and say, God, I feel like crap today. I don't see what's the point. And then all of a sudden they will snap you out of it. So
being aware of your mindset, self-care, and looking after yourself, because if you're not in the right place mentally, your business isn't going to be continuing, and you're not going to be here in 10 years time like you are.
Yay!
Fantastic. Listen, it's been absolutely great catching up with you, Yvonne, and learning more about your business and learning more about these tips that you've given. I'm going to be applying lots of them. I'm going to be rewatching it and writing things down. So yes, it kicks off the first episode of season 3 of the Tuesday Talk Show. Yvonne Gorman, Essential Print Services. Fabulous. Thank you very much.
No, thanks to you, Pete. Thanks to you for agreeing to do this morning. I couldn't have thought anyone better to interview me. So really, really thank you. I want to give some shout outs to people that have been commenting during the show, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
We've got quite a few comments coming in, which is really exciting. We've got friend of the show, Simon Smith from Jack Photography. Happy birthday, business. Yes, excellent. Who else have we got? We've also another friend of the show, Maria Hansen, MBE from Me and D. She believed she could, so she did. So that was exciting. Another friend of the show, we've got Tim from Grindhouse Strongman Gym in Burton. Good morning, Tim. Great to see you this morning. We've got loads of people. We've got Fiona. Oh, hi, Fiona. Neil Lewis, one of the coaches from the D2N2 peer-to-peer program.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Lucy Miller. Oh, good morning, Lucy. Thanks. I'm great that you could join us. So they're just some of the many comments we've had this morning. So it's been absolutely fantastic. So yeah, thank you. Pete, can you just give us a minute or two about your business and where we can find you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I am Pete. I used to be on the radio for 25 years or something ridiculous. lost track of time. That all came to an end a couple of years ago as I just realized I knew a lot of stuff about building brands, and I'd had enough of doing it for big corporate radio stations. And I, like you, I have a real passion for small businesses and helping small businesses succeed. So I now produce podcasts to build people, to make so for business marketing purposes. So yeah, if you want a podcast, or you think that podcasting is something that that can work for you, then do contact me, please, at carrotcruncher.com. It's all one word. That is the website, carrotcruncher.com. There's free training. I do a week's worth of free training.
Free training?
Completely free with no upsells, Yvonne. Can you believe it? I don't do that thing like the Americans do, where they go, normally this course costs £5,000, but for today you can have it for $4.99. I don't do that. But we have got free training. It's called From Zero to Podcast Hero. So you don't need to know anything about podcasts. And then after a week, you'll know quite a lot about podcasts. So get booked onto that at carrotcruncher.com.
Your website, is it?
It is, yeah. It's all on the website, carrotcruncher.com.
And you're everywhere else on social media?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm some places. Yeah, I don't like social media. I don't like social media. I like talking, but and I've not got the time for Clubhouse, so you can forget that.
Oh, forget that.
But yeah,
thank you so much for your time today and taking time out of your busy schedule to interview me to celebrate the Essential Print Service's 10th birthday. So excited. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch up with everyone soon. Thanks for coming. See you later.